Everyone, Zeddy here again today, and we are now a decent amount past the second balance patch in Hearthstone. Exar stated on Twitter that there isn't going to be an update, at least for a little bit, that there's maybe a BG update coming, but they're going to let the meta settle. So I thought it'd be a good time to make a couple videos going over the 5 best decks to hit Legend with in Standard and Wild. This video will focus on Standard. Tomorrow's will be Wild, so if you want to check that out, make sure you sub and put your notifications on so you get ready to be hit up with that one. But today we're going to start off with 5 decks in Standard that you can realistically expect to hit what Legend with. So we're going to start with number 1, the best deck that, at least in my opinion, still the best deck in Standard. It's been nerfed 7 times, but still the best deck is Tempo or Aggro Demon Hunter. It's just a powerhouse. This deck is just an absolute powerhouse. It has the best early game in Hearthstone. It's got the best draw. It's got some of the best lifesteal options. It's got the best reach. It just does insane stuff. You start off with your early game with Battle Fiend, Blazing Battle Mage, and you have like Satyr Overseer, and then you start, you push early aggression, you push, and then you kind of transition into your mid game where you control the board and push damage with Warglaze of Azzinoth. You can push damage with Gladebound Adept. You can draw an insane amount of cards in cheat mana with your Skull of Gul'dan. You can drop your big bombs with your Priestess of Fury, basically Ragnaros for 5 to 7 mana, depending on how you've cheated your mana. And you can always clear the board and push face damage with Altruist the Outcast. And while your opponent plays a bunch of taunts, you can even throw out Kane and go face. This deck is just the deck that keeps on ticking. It has an insanely positive win rate against most decks, and most decks you're going to be targeting this deck. That's going to be your main issue, is you're going to be facing mirrors and decks that are built to hard counter this deck because it's so good. But because it's so good, even the hard counters still struggle to beat it. And if you learn to play this deck, you stick with it for a while, you're going to have some insane success on ladder. I mean, when I'm queuing top 200, top Legend, this is just the deck you see all the time. Insanely powerful, insanely good. Abuse it until it gets nerfed for like a 3rd time, because it'll definitely get hit at some point again. Number 2, the next deck I would recommend is Galakrond Secret Rogue. It takes the Galakrond package that we all love and know from the prior rotation, and it adds the secret package to the deck. So yes, it's still Galakrond Rogue. You have Galakrond, you have all your invoke cards, you have Togwoggle, but you throw in some of the newer secret cards. You have Blackjack Stunner, the 1-mana 1/2 minion that if you have a secret active, it basically is a freezing trap. You can pick an enemy minion, put it back in their hand, it costs 2 more. You do this to like Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, something expensive, they literally can never play it again. Very powerful, insane tempo. And then you also have Shadow Jeweler Hanar, the new legendary for Rogue. It's a 2-mana 1/5 after you play a secret, discover another one from another class. So basically, the chain this infinitely. You coin this on 2, it basically never dies unless it's against a Demon Hunter or a Priest with Shadow or Pain. It just doesn't die, and you can just chain it. And when you're playing all these secrets that can just create impossible ways of killing it, it can snowball out of control. This card is crazy. And then you're running a few secrets in there as well, like Bamboozle, 2-mana secret that if your minion is attacked, it will become a random one that costs 3 more. Can be absolutely bonkers. Like, it can turn a 1/1 into an 8/8. You can turn your Lackey into a 4-mana 8/8. Very good. And then, of course, you have Dirty Tricks, which if your opponent plays a spell, which most decks do, you draw 2 cards for 2 mana. That's very good. And you have Ambush, just an extremely annoying card. Whenever for your opponent, they play something, you get a 2/3 poisonous. It's going to trade into basically anything. So the secret package is shown to be very strong, has shown to have a really good win rate at both Legend and through all ranks. The deck can be a lot of fun to play. You play your lackeys, you get a bunch of random stuff. Every game can be different, and just has a very high power level, good matchup spread, and I think you'll see success playing it. Yeah, definitely recommended. Next on the list, we have a deck that is not so easy to navigate. It is not the easiest to play, but very effective, which is Egg Warrior. I think first popularized by No Hands Gamer. This deck kind of is built around your ability to maintain board control, clear the board with like your risky skipper, your armor smith gain armor, you get tempo with your injured Tolvir, with your eggs and your inner rages and rampage. You have insane standout cards in the deck, such as Warmull Challenger, one of the new standouts in the deck. It's a 3-mana 1/10. You get to pick a minion to attack with it, and it'll attack it to death. It's likely going to stick around, and then you have a great inner rage or rampage target. You can buff it, you can copy it with Bloodsworn Mercenary, which is an absolute highlight in the deck. And then you have one of the one of the biggest power cards you have in there is also brand new, is Blood Broil Brute, 7 mana, 6/8 rush mini, costs 1 less for each damaged minion. You can get this out for 0. It's not that difficult. Like, you play Skipper on a relatively full board with 1 minion, you can play Blood Boil Brute, you copy it, you just take the board, you win the game. And then of course there's the brand new legendary as well, Terran Gorefiend, which can be spectacular in the deck. You have the board full of eggs, bombs, all that stuff, and then you just drop the Gorefiend, you eat the board, and then you can kill it off or copy it again, and then you just have this unkillable board that just farms Demon Hunters, can do very well against the rogues if you play it right. The only issue with the deck that I find is it's not that straightforward to play. It takes a while to master. I think it's the deck I see people misplay the most. I've played it a little bit, and I've done all right, but again, I'm nowhere near like really comfortable with it. So it's a very good deck, but it's going to take some practice to play. So be aware of that if you craft it. But yeah, very solid, and it can be very rewarding if you play it properly. Next on the list, the next 2 decks, we've gone over 3 that I feel like those were the 3 biggest powerhouses on ladder. When you're queuing Legend ladder, at least, that's basically what you're facing. You're facing Galakrond Rogue, you're facing Demon Hunter, and you're facing Warrior. What are some like more off-meta-ish but powerful decks I would recommend? Well, first is Murloc Paladin. Yeah, Paladin, at least on Legend ladder, you never see anyone play it, but this, across all ranks, but effectively Legend and somewhat Diamond, has the best win rate in Hearthstone. If you're starting at like Bronze or something, it's something you definitely want to consider, is Murloc Paladin. You just play the Murlocs. You flood the board, you keep putting pressure on, and you kill your opponent. A lot of these decks, like Rogue especially, can't deal with it, and you have some new cards that really work well in the deck, like Imprisoned Sungill. It's a dormant Murloc, 1 mana 2/1. When it comes awake, it's a 1/1. Your opponent can't interact with it, and once it's undormant, you can buff it with like Cold Light Seer, you can buff it with Felfin Navigator, Scale Lord, all these type of things. And yeah, you just have a lot of good early game Murloc. You have the new Prime minion, McGurgle, the 2/1 Divine Shield. He puts the Prime in your deck, which can summon more Murlocs. You have the Angling Rod, which you can attack with and get more Murlocs. The deck has just performed very well, but not at high ranks. But if you're just trying to push for Legend, and you're not really, you're not trying to get top ranks, Murloc Paladin surprisingly does a really good job. And the deck is relatively inexpensive. You do have some epics like Murloc Warleader in there, but for the most part, it's a lot of commons and rares, so it can be a decent budget option. Not particularly the hardest deck to play. Play your Murlocs on curve, value trade when you can, buff your board, go face, and you'll see some success. So definitely one I'd recommend. I'm not super familiar with it, but I've seen a lot of success across HS Replay with it, so definitely give it a look. And the last deck I will recommend is just a deck I have been absolutely loving playing. I was torn between whether I was going to recommend Spell Mage or Highlander Mage or Reno Mage, but we're going Reno Mage. I just think the deck overall is just a super solid, not the easiest to play deck, but very rewarding. It does struggle against like Demon Hunter quite a bit, but can do very well against Warrior, and is like a 50-50 split against Rogue. And across the board, you can beat pretty much anything, especially with the high roll package. So what are some of the new cards we're throwing in here compared to before? Well, we have cards like Astromancer Solarian, one of the standouts. 2 mana 3/2 Prime, spell damage +1. It dies, it shuffles the 7/7 Prime into your deck, and well, that Prime is insane. It's a 7 mana 7/7. It casts 5 spells on randomly, but on enemy targets, so it can't really backfire outside of like a Conjurer's Calling. And it could even Pyroblast your opponent in the face, in theory, 5 times for lethal. You have Deep Freeze in there, the new 8-mana spell. Target any enemy, and summon 2 water elementals. Very good against aggro. Great against Demon Hunter. Freeze their face, get water allies, they can never attack again. Really good stuff. You have neutral taunts like Rustied Raider and the Overconfident Orc. Just good early game that can protect you. And then, of course, you know, you have your usual stuff. You have Zephrys, you have Dragon Queen, you have the hero card Amazing Reno to clear the board and gain value, and you have one of the newest and most improved cards in Hearthstone because of rotation, the Puzzle Box of Yogg-Saron, just insanely consistent in terms of its random effect. It can just scam games like nobody's business, especially when you cheat it out with Dragoncaster. And yeah, the deck has done really well for me. I've hit top 100 Legend with it multiple times. I believe if you learn to pilot well, know how to min-max against the bad matchups, you can have some really good success with it. And highly recommend it. It's so much fun to play. Not the most fun to face, but we don't care about our opponent. We just want to get Legend and do well. And I think the deck can do that. So hopefully these recommendations help. I would definitely stick with the first 3 decks more so than the last 2. But I thought I'd throw a little bit more flavor out there outside of just saying Rogue, Demon Hunter, and Warrior, which is all you kind of see on ladder. So good luck getting that Legend climb done. Again, tomorrow we will highlight the wild decks that can help you get Legend. So again, please like the video, subscribe so you can get that one tomorrow. And yeah, good luck on that Legend climb. Have a great day, and stay salty, my friends.